Welcome to the final edition of Talking Hoops, also the state tournament edition. I'm Mark Kern, joined by Tim Bielik and David Cassilo. Guys, we got 4 local teams going to state. What was the biggest surprise from this weekend?
I think the biggest surprise, it's not that big of a surprise to me because I knew they were good, but Central Catholic beating St. V really sending some shockwaves throughout Northeast Ohio. Central Catholic just did a great job defensively. They shut down an offense that hadn't been shut down all year long, and maybe it's just the benefit of being the only team to play them twice.
Tim, any disagreement?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't disagree too much, but I'll go kind of more on an individual level, and I want to talk about Brandon Johnson and Garfield Heights really emerging as that X factor in the regional round. I mean, when you talk about Garfield Heights all season, we talked about Willie Jackson and Frankie Hughes for good reason, but Brandon Johnson, the seniors, really emerged in the last 2 games, and the game I was at in Uniontown, I thought he turned that game around. He had a 3-point play that really helped spark them in the fourth quarter. I mean, he had a huge game rebounding and Shaker Heights in the regional final. If he could continue to play that way, there's no reason to believe Garfield Heights won't be able to make a big statement down in Columbus.
We'll be joined by Coach Sonny-Johnson in a few minutes, but I bet he definitely agrees with that statement. And then, Dave, you kind of talked about it, Cleveland Central Catholic pulling off the biggest, most surprising victory of the weekend. You were there. What were they able to do to take the Irish, a great offensive team, and hold them to 36 points?
It was all about perimeter defense. St. V is a great 3-point shooting team, but in the game, Central Catholic, they really locked down on the outside. They just didn't allow them to take 3-pointers. And when you do that, you're not going to hit 3-pointers. So they didn't hit a 3-pointer in the first half. They got the game really low scoring. St. V scored 36 points in the game. Their previous season low was 52.
That's absolutely insane. We've seen them against great teams, 89 against VASJ. Tim, why do you think CCC was able to get that win?
I think Dave really touched on it as a perimeter defense, and they had the guys to really create that perimeter stretch. When you talk about Antoine Lillard and Tervel Beck, those are long wing players. Tervel Beck's about 6'7", Lillard about 6'5", 6'6", so they have that length on the perimeter to really create some problems. And St. V, we know they could shoot the 3. But again, to hold them to 36 points is absolutely tremendous. A great job by the Ironmen.
All right, guys, we have 4 teams in championships. We have in the state tournament, St. Edward and Garfield Heights Division I, Cleveland Central Catholic Division II, and villa-angela-st-joseph Division III. When you look at those 4 teams, what team do you think has the best chance to win a state title, Dave?
Well, I think you got to go villa-angela-st-joseph. There's a reason Division III is not as competitive as Division II and Division I, and villa-angela-st-joseph has a team that could win a state title at multiple levels. And they've got a front court that is very hard to match up with. They put a tough schedule, and they are the heavy favorite in Division III.
Tim?
I can't really disagree with that. I mean, VASJ seems like the team that everybody's picked to win the D3 title. They obviously have to probably go a little bit of deja vu with Lima Central Catholic in the state championship potentially, but it's not the same Lima Central Catholic we saw last year. They lost their 2 top scorers. They do have 3 of those starters back in Trey Cobbs, Dan Teswell, and Jake Williams. It's a little bit of a different team, but I think, VHJ returning all that experience. Dave Kwasniak admitted yesterday in teleconference they really use that loss as motivation, and they've just been absolutely tremendous in the postseason. There's no reason to think that they shouldn't win a state title.
All right, guys, of the 4 teams down at state, 2 of them were there last year, and only St. Edward defended the state title. Dave, St. Edward defends its state title and wins its consecutive if
Kipper Nichols keeps being Kipper Nichols. He's been unbelievable now for 2 straight postseasons. He's the X factor. He's going to be the best player on the floor. I know Heber Heights Wayne has some really, really good players, but no one has the experience and the talent that Kipper does. And if he plays at the level that he plays at in March, then I think they're going to win and move on to the state championship.
All right, Tim, why do you think St. Edward has a chance to defend its title?
I'm going to kind of go to a broader level than Dave did. Again, I'm going to talk about the edge front court. In the regional final game against Lima Senior, I believe they had about 44 of their 50 points in that game. Kipper had a big game, but Mike Ryan and Derek Funderburg combining for 9 blocks in that game. Those 3 guys together really are just tremendous up there. There's a reason why I said at the beginning of the season this is probably the best front court in Ohio, and so far they've just lived up to the billing all season. I think those 3 guys have a great shot to get it done again.
All right, guys, a lot of talent, obviously, with so many great players in our area, but for people who haven't seen some of the non-local teams there who have a lot of talent, who's a player they should keep their eye on?
Got to go with A.J. Harris and Dayton Dunbar. He hit the game-winning free throw against Franklin and Luke Kennard in the regional final. He's just a tremendous player. He's headed to Ohio State, so people will get used to seeing him on that court.
Tim?
I can't disagree. A.J. Harris of Dunbar, people talk about that Dayton Dunbar Franklin regional final game. It's a bit of an upset. I kind of disagree with that. To me, those two teams were very even. It was a close game, and I think A.J. Harris reminded people that, hey, Luke Kennard wasn't the only star guard in that game, that, pay attention to me a little bit, I'm sure. And he's got that Dayton Dunbar team playing on their back in Columbus. They won a state title in 2012. It's a program that down there that's done extremely well, and I think he's been a big reason behind it.
I'm excited to see Ahmad Wagner. Saw him at Wayne Trace. He, in football, state title, just an incredible athlete, and should be a lot of fun. And then, all right, who's the one player you talk about? All these teams from the area have multiple guys that can take over games. Who's maybe an under-the-radar player for a local team that could really have a big influence on a state title?
Well, I got to go with Frankie Hughes at Garfield Heights. I mean, when he's on his game from the outside, he's the X factor. I saw it against East Tech, hitting 7 3-pointers, and I mean, he was the difference. So if he's shooting well, it opens up a lot of things for the Garfield Heights offense, and he's a tough player to slow down when he's hot.
Tim, you got another guy?
I'm going to go with Eric-flannery of St. Ed's. We saw him last year come off the injury and really be an impact player in the state Final Four, hitting some big free throws in that game against Upper Arlington, and I think he's got the ability to do it again. I mean, he hadn't really been as good as we expected him to be, but he's still a very good player for them. He's done some great things for them. I expect, in this Final Four scenario, having been there last year, he'll rise to the occasion once again.
All right, and now we are actually joined by Coach Eric-Flannery of the St. Edward Eagles. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
Not too bad. Coach, you're able to speak with us. That means one thing, that you're going to state to defend your state title. When you look at this, when you kind of compare the two seasons, has this playoff run maybe been more stressful, a little more difficult? You played some really good games the past few games?
Very much so. I think, the competition that we played, at least in the regionals this year, both games kind of went down to the wire. We're tied in the fourth quarter. We played two very talented basketball teams in Lima Senior and Lorraine Senior, and we're just happy to be back. I think it's a testament to our guys and the schedule that we played throughout the year that it's kind of paid off again. And we're just hoping that we'll peak in at the right time and have a chance here with a great test on Friday night to maybe get back to the state finals.
Coach, you mentioned the Lima Senior game. You had a couple things going against you. It was a team that forced 19 turnovers. You guys didn't hit a three. It was kind of a home court disadvantage. They had a lot of the fans there, and you still managed to pull out the win with a nice, strong fourth quarter. Do you think that said a lot about your team's experience and veteran savvy to come out of an environment like that and get the win?
Yeah, I really do. I think even if you go back to the Lorraine game, it was an unbelievable crowd. You had about 5,500 people there, and most of them were Lorraine backers, and you go to Toledo, and 80% of the crowd is Lima fans, and I think our guys just tend to focus on the task at hand and the experience that they had from last year and the big games that we've played in this year. I think they're able to tune that out and simply focus on what we need to do to pull out a win. We're not trying to beat teams by 20 or 30. We're just trying to win games, and that's what the state tournament's all about, is trying to survive and advance. And we're going to have to play our best basketball this weekend, especially Friday night, if we want to continue to advance.
Coach, tell me a little about Darian Knowles and what he's meant to the team this year.
Well, Darian is kind of our X factor. He's the guy that, when he's playing well, when he's playing aggressive, we are a great basketball team. I mean, he had a great game against Lorraine, and I think that's, he's the reason we won. Even though Kipper had an unbelievable game, you need that other guy, and Darian was that guy, and he's shown spurts throughout the year of being one of the best basketball players on the floor. And if we can get him going and get him aggressive, he makes us a very special team. And he's a kid that can do a lot of different things because of his length at the two guard. And we've always known he's capable of doing it. It's just trying to get him to be able to get going for a long period of time.
All right, Coach, obviously with Kipper, Mike, and Derek, that's three guys who played very meaningful minutes in the state tournament last year. What have those three been doing the past week, kind of talking to teammates, just explaining the circumstances and the experience they're about ready to endure?
Yeah, I think they've definitely been sharing their experience, but more than talking, I think it's just the way they're leading by example. They're treating everything, like normal. They're trying to keep the guys simply just focused on what we're supposed to do in order to win the next game and not necessarily be satisfied or accepting of just getting to the Final Four. I think that's the one advantage we have going into Friday night. We're playing a team that probably is a little bit more talented than we are, and a little deeper than we are and maybe have a little bit more athleticism than we do. But we have the experience, and we hope that we can rely on those guys and their experience of taking in the atmosphere, and the other guys kind of look at them for that leadership. And I think that goes a long way, and that's something that you cannot take for granted.
Coach, looking ahead to your game Friday night against Huber Heights, Wayne, I'm sure you've had a chance to really check them out, but looking at what they've done this year, they got 5 guys averaging 9 points a game. Is that offensive balance that they have what really sticks out to you on film?
It really does. There's not one person or player that we can key on to try to stop. They have guards that can shoot the 3, and they're efficient doing it. They have big guys that can finish around the basket, but can also step out to that mid-range and knock down shots. And the most impressive thing to me about this team that we're playing is that they play hard. They're so athletic. They get in the passing lanes, and the defensive pressure. Lima and Lorraine were great, so they're preparing us for this game. But we have to step it up, and Huber Heights Wayne steps up their intensity, to a whole nother level. And they play 9 guys, so they're not going to get tired. They're going to keep coming after us throughout the course of the game. So, we're just, I'm worried about, us taking care of the basketball and handling that pressure. If we can do that, we have a chance to win this game Friday night.
All right, last question for you, Coach. When you look at this game, what is the one thing that you guys need to do to win?
Well, I don't know if there's one. There's definitely 2 things: taking care of the ball and rebounding the basketball, because they're relentless on the glass. So if we can really focus on those 2 things, we have a good chance of winning the game.
All right, Coach, we want to thank you for joining us, and good luck on Friday night.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, and this past weekend we had a really good regional tournament, and we saw some teams go down that had great regular seasons, St. Vincent, St. Mary, and Lorraine. And when you look at those teams, you think that the regular season is important, but it's all about playoff time, and that's what we're learning this time of year. The teams that beat those teams, Central Catholic and St. Edward, they showed that they really have what it takes come playoff time, and really had some fantastic wins. And we're going to be joined by Coach Holmes and Coach Johnson in a second. But then, if you look at the games this weekend, just want to run down who's playing when. We got villa-angela-st-joseph. They're going to be playing Classic Team on Thursday, and then we've got Central Catholic playing 10:45 on Friday morning. We've got Garfield Heights playing 5:15 on Friday, and we've got St. Edward closing down at 8:30 on Friday night. So it should be a great night of basketball action on Friday, and then obviously the one game on Thursday too, and then we'll see who's still around on Saturday. So I think it's going to be an exciting weekend. But right now we are joined by Central Catholic coach Jeremey-Holmes and Garfield Heights coach Sonny-Johnson. Coaches, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Coach Holmes, we'll start with you. First year as a head coach, and here we are, we're heading down the state. Now, you went there a couple times as a player with Cleveland Heights. Compare the experience as a player versus a coach.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, as a player, I'm allowed to get out there and really use my talent, to get the job done, to get to the Final Four. And it's different because now I have to relay the messages, just through trust and through faith. And so, the kids, they really bought into what I was telling them, from day one. And, this is the result that we have.
Sonny, when you went through the season, you lost 3 times, and you were able to avenge 2 of those losses to Shaker Heights. But at what point did you really feel like this was a group that had the caliber to get down to state?
When we had some big wins, we beat a couple of good prep schools. I thought had some really talented teams. We beat Gonzaga, and we played those teams that had about 3 or 4 Division I players on there. I just thought we had a good team, and then I just felt we were battle tested. So. From playing a good schedule, so that's when I knew we had a good shot.
What was it like for you guys to beat Shaker Heights in that regional final? Not only your rival, but a team that had beat you twice already.
In the biggest game?
Yeah.
Yes, it was great. I can't even lie. It's to get downstate. That's what every coach dreams about. Jeremy will tell you. I mean, as a coach, you see some, like I've been saying, you see so many great coaches that don't get a chance to get down here. So, just to be able to get downstate again is just a blessing, So, in the biggest game to get for everything to be on the line to get down here was special.
And even though they're not in your conference, St. Vincent St. Mary has become a rival of sorts for you guys as well. You already talked to me off the camera before, but
Right.
since that first game when you played them and that loss, what was the mindset of that team, your team going forward?
We really felt like, we had a chance to win that game, even though they pulled away, towards the end. After watching the film again, it was a 3-point game, with under 2 minutes left. And I watched the film over and over and over, and then I watched them play St. Joe's, and I watched them play, Poland Seminary. And I just like our kids' chances, when we come out and execute and do the things that we do well, and that's guard. And I felt like in that game on Saturday, that's what we did. We guarded well. We took a great St. V team from 78 points to 36 points, so that was huge.
Now, when you look at your team, you've got a great senior and junior class and some great young players as well, but specifically the senior class, what do they mean to your team and sort of the drive they've had all season long?
Those guys are leaders, through and through. Antoine Lillard is the heartbeat of our team. That kid is very special as a young man, a lot of character, works hard, high energy every day. And the other kids, they feed off of him. Drayvon Mills is like our Dennis Rodman. Montel, when he comes to play, being 6'9" and that long and that active, means a lot. Cameron Locklear coming off the bench, William Hullum coming off the bench as well. They've done an excellent job for us, and some of those things, happen in practice, and people don't see that. So even if they don't play a lot in the game, they mean a lot to our team, just from a veteran standpoint.
Sonny, you guys got Westerville South on Friday night here. From what you've seen, what kind of a game do you expect?
A very fast-paced game. They're very athletic. They do an unbelievable job getting the ball inside. They have probably, I think that he's rated the #1 player in the state, sophomore in the state of Ohio. So he's a 6'9" kid, great hands. His brother is a Division I player as well. So those two brothers are a handful. Their front line is 6'4", 6'7", 6'9". So, but they get up and down the floor. They really, really guard you. They can really defend. They pressure the ball very well, and they're very unselfish. I told my team today when we was watching tape on them that this might be the best team we've played, because you have other players like Issa Mara, or you play against the Kipper Nichols, and they have great, they're everybody's equal. You don't know who to take away. You get what I'm saying? So you want to take away a Kipper, or you might want to take away Issa, but you don't know who to take away on this team because they're so balanced, and it's it's gonna be a good game. I can tell you that.
Now, it's Jeremy's first time taking a team down there. If you had any advice from what you remember, what would you tell him?
Just enjoy. My approach is different right now from going 4 years ago, because before I was happy to be there. When I say happy to be there, as a coach, you don't think that's your dream to make it to a Final Four, and if you're lucky, you're able to win one. So going down there, I was happy, and when we lost, I was mad we lost, but I was like, man, I made it. Right now, I'm focused on winning it all. My approach is different. My kids haven't been there, so I've been there. So to me, it's nothing. It's great to be there, but now I just want to win it. So I'm trying to make sure I rub that off on our kids, because my approach is to win it all. I'm not just happy with being there. I want to win it. So.
And Coach Holmes, you play Walnut Ridge. What have you seen from them?
Sort of like what Sonny said, the same kind of team. They have a good basketball team. They have a young kid inside. He's a lefty, and so that's different, when you play against left-handed guys. But they have guards who are crafty. They shoot it pretty well. They defend well. They play hard. They're scrappy. So they sort of, mirror us. And so I feel like any team that's similar to us is going to give us a good game. But we should be able to guard, because we see those things in practice every day. But I feel like any team who makes it to the Final Four is a great team.
Last question, same question for both of you. Jeremy, we'll start with you. What makes Northeast Ohio basketball so special?
I don't know. It must be in the water this year. We're going to go out. I've talked to Coach Johnson. I've talked to Coach Kwasniak. We're trying to bring back 1, 2, and 3 back to the city. I don't know if this has ever happened before, where we've really had a legitimate shot at each division. But as much as we battle each other, throughout the season, it's all love now for us to bring it back home, because it's bigger than us at this point.
And Coach, why do you think Northeast Ohio basketball is so special?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the great players, you know, and putting some great coaches with some of these players, like Jeremy getting a job at Central Catholic and taking him downstate his first year. You know, you got Babe over there coaching. Babe. You got you have Flannery, who's been doing it for years. You know, I'm sitting in the media room, and he said he's been down there 9 times. So you know just the coaches with the players, and you know, these players are developing now. We have a lot of talent, and and what makes it more exciting in this area for us, like, you know, you see all the college coaches coming in just recruiting all our kids. So, you know, we just got a lot of good things going, and hopefully we keep it going.
All right, guys. Well, appreciate you guys coming in, and hopefully, you're right, Jeremy, we get 3 state titles. That'd be a lot of fun. I think
Right.
this area deserves it.
Right.
Great.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. Now, when you look at the field, we mentioned a little how some other team seasons were ending, and just want to give a shout out to a couple of players that really had a fantastic career. Issa Ahmad, who finished up, he had 37 points against Garfield Heights in a great game, and Devon Andrews at Lorraine led the team to an undefeated perfect regular season. Josh Williams at St. Vincent St. Mary. I mean, all 3 of those guys really had fantastic years, and you know, just because they're not down in the state tournament doesn't mean that they didn't have good careers. And you know, some of the other teams get lost in the shuffle this week, but I definitely think that deserve a shout out for what they have done over the last 4 years, because they've put together some really good careers. And another team that is really looking strong this time of year, and we didn't have any of their guests, unfortunately, is Villa-Angela-St-Joseph. And, you know, with Carlton Bragg and Brian Parker and Derek Pard, you hear all about them, but Simon Texador has really been an X factor, and they really look strong in Division III, and I think that's the one team that we all sort of feel is probably going to be cutting down the nets on Saturday for sure. But, all right, guys, well, welcome back, and I think, Mark, you got a nice little closing game for us.
Yeah, we do it. Okay, guys, I don't want any of the same picks this year. We've been too much picking the same things. So let's get it started. Dave, what could happen this weekend?
I'm going to go with Jeremy. I think what could happen is we could have 3 state title winners in 3 separate divisions. I got to look up. He maybe want to do my job a little more and see if that's ever happened or when the last time that happened, but I think there's a good chance of that.
Tim?
I think in Division I, the St. Edward, I think will produce the Division I favor in that game. I think those are the 2 best teams coming in.
Could or will?
Yeah, you just went to Will.
It could. I mean, that could produce the favorite. I mean, because I feel like those 2 teams are the best all season in Division I that are here right now. I mean, Garfield Heights and Westerville South are playing tremendous basketball, and again, wouldn't surprise me whoever wins, because you never know this time of year. But I feel like whoever wins that second game with Eds and Wayne is going to really could decide who will be the favorite in that championship.
Seems like you really are confident in that one. I would have saved that one for Will. But for me, I think we could see a rematch in Division III. As we said, Lima Central Catholic, defeated Villa-Angela. It is Lima. Oh, Tim, you got me all rattled. No, I think Villa-Angela-St-Joseph really wants a game against him. You know, Coach Kwasniak and the team would never say they just want to play who's next, but they want that matchup, obviously, and I think there's a very good chance of that happening. Dave, what should?
I think we should get a Central Catholic versus Dayton Dunbar final. I think those are right now definitively the 2 best teams left in Division II. I think, you know, they'll both be tested a little, but really, I think they've both faced their toughest test at this point. I think Dayton Dunbar taking down Franklin and Central Catholic beating St. Vincent St. Mary, those are the 2 best teams they're going to play until they play each other, I think.
And I think for Willie Jackson for Garfield Heights should be their biggest difference maker. I know we talked about Brandon Johnson a little bit earlier, Frankie Hughes having a good season, but Willie Jackson I think has been their best guy all season long. And you know the old saying, big time players step up in big games. I feel like Willie Jackson should be able to do that on Friday night against Westerville South.
I'm going to go a little what Dave said. I think Cleveland Central Catholic should make it to the state championship game. I think you look at them, that was a huge one against St. Vincent St. Mary. You worry maybe a little bit that they almost get a little complacent after beating that team, but listening to Coach Holmes, I don't think he'll allow that. So I like the Ironmen to get to the state championship. Dave, what will happen? Keeping in mind, last week I said Kipper Nichols would average 25 points and lead his team to the state tournament, average 26.5. So
pretty close. I'm going to go that the St. Edward Huber Heights the St. Edward Huber Heights Wayne game will be the best game of the weekend. I think just it's going to be a fantastic basketball game. A close second, I think, will be Central Catholic versus Dunbar, but that game is going to be played at such a high level in D1. And I was talking with Coach Flannery a little earlier. Don't be surprised though if that team doesn't win the state title, because they might just be so drained from that game that it's still. I think D1 is open between those 4 teams.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of go off what Jeremy-Holmes said earlier. I think we will have 3 teams playing for state championship on Saturday. I think VASJ will be there, Central Catholic will be there, and either Eds or Garfield Heights. I'm not ready to say I think both will be there because they both have difficult matchups. Mm-hmm. Garfield Heights will have the home court disadvantage against the Westerville South team that plays about 10-15 minutes away from the Schottenstein Center, so they'll pack the place. Huber Heights Wayne was a Division I favorite. They beat Central Catholic earlier this season by 22 points. Both those teams have tough tests. I think one will win out of those 2, and we will have 3 teams playing for titles on Saturday.
We will have 4 teams playing for state championship Saturday, Tim. I think, as you said, those teams in Division I know both Wayne Trace and Westerville, terrific teams, but these teams up here in Northeast Ohio played unbelievable schedules, and I think that'll be the difference, and we will have 3 state champions, 4 teams playing in a state championship.
I like it.
And I'm going to pick St. Edward to defend their title. So
all right.
should be an exciting weekend. And guys, that should-will was probably the worst of the year for all of us messing up.
We're going out on a low now.
Definitely. But stay tuned to cleveland.com throughout the week as we have coverage. Don't forget, Mr. Ohio is released tomorrow. We'll have countless coverage of the games coming up this weekend. And then come to cleveland.com Thursday through Saturday, as we have coverage of the state tournament. So for Dave Cassilo, Tim Bielik, I'm Mark Kern.